Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we look at another member of my computer collection. Now most of the models I've got in my collection on deem as classics, and that is the computers that are notable in some way. They pushed the technology along, they were very popular, very successful in the marketplace. But I have got one or two models that I've collected for just the opposite reason. These are ones that failed spectacularly in the marketplace and are known more for their notoriety than for their classic nature. This is one of them. This is the Mattel Aquarius. Lasted a mere 4 months in the marketplace. Introduced at the height of the home computer wars in 1983. Quite a spectacular failure, and was one of the shortest lasting computers of that time. There are various reasons for this, and we'll cover them in this video. So let's have a look. The story of the Mattel Aquarius really starts with this machine, the Mattel Intellivision. Now Mattel was a toy maker, and they specialised in Barbie dolls, board games, Matchbox toys, amongst other things. In 1979 they entered the video game market with the Intellivision, and this was a home console that families could plug into their TVs. It sold well in the early 1980s, but Mattel noticed that home computers were becoming all the rage, so the thinking was, why not come out with a real computer which allowed families to play video games, as they had with the Intellivision, but also learn about computing and do some of those things like home finances and the like. The answer was the Mattel Aquarius, released in 1983. While Mattel's name was on the case, the machine was actually contracted from Hong Kong firm Radifin. Now Mattel's timing as regards entry into home computing couldn't have been worse. It was the height of the home computer wars, and the market was being swamped with all manner of home computers, all fiercely competing for survival and discounting furiously. Not only was the timing bad, but the specifications didn't hold up either. The machine had a paltry 4K of RAM, of which only 1.7K was available to the user. It had a chiclet keyboard, only a subset of Microsoft Basic, had no sprites, no sophisticated sound chip, and an RF output only. Now, had the machine been released in the late 1970s, this might have been considered adequate given the price. But this was 1983, when people expected far more, even though the computer was relatively cheap. Expansion options were available, which gave more RAM and a better sound chip, but these bumped the price up, making the expanded unit close to the cost of a fully fledged home computer like the Commodore 64. With sales poor and seeing the writing on the wall, Mattel cancelled the model after a mere 4 months. Manufacturing stopped and the marketing rights were given to Radifin to clear the surplus units as they saw fit. Mattel's adventure into home computing was over. Radifin did continue to clear the stock for a few years. To my knowledge, it was this old stock that was sold here in New Zealand. Here's an early 1985 Dick Smith advertisement for the Aquarius. A very low price, but the specs looked even worse by that year. The attitude of the New Zealand market to the Aquarius can be seen in the title of this review, taken from New Zealand Bits and Bytes, around Christmas 1985. Actually, you read the review and it's quite favourable, but by that stage people were not buying home computers just to learn some basic. They really wanted more, and the Aquarius just didn't stack up. So here's my Aquarius. It doesn't have the name Mattel anywhere on it, so it must have been sold after Mattel gave the marketing rights to Radifin. There's no Mattel logo above the Aquarius name there, as there is with the first models marketed by Mattel. Now you can see here this little compartment. It's actually, this is a blank, but this is where you would plug the cartridges into. They look exactly like this blank cover, so they fit into the machine quite nicely without spoiling its form factor. It can be a bit tight to get out. If we tilt this and have a look at it, you'll see that there's a slot there for those cartridges to plug in. That cartridge slot is also where I'd plug in an expander if I had one.
This is an extra piece of hardware that gives you two expansion slots, and you can plug in a RAM cartridge as well as your game cartridge. Just a look at the keyboard. You can see the return key down there right at the bottom in a rather odd place. Chiclet keyboard, of course, although quite attractive looking. Tiny space bar, which is not a space bar but rather a space button. And notice also how you've got the basic keywords there, so you can push a combination of keys and actually produce those on the screen, very similar to the Sinclair machines. So if we just move around the side a little, you can see the switch there. It's actually got quite an attractive form factor. Sloped at the back, it gives it a real retro looking early 80s appearance. Coming around the back, we've got a printer port there. We've got a cassette port with the plug plugged into it. Then there's the RF cord, and finally the power cord. The power cord is actually connected to the unit permanently, so you can't unplug it. And the cords going to the PSU and then to the wall are actually quite long, so it's all a little bit messy, the fact that you can't unplug that from the unit. You've got to cart it around with you. Right up there in the top left corner of the keyboard is a reset button, which is handy. Now if we follow this cassette cord along, you'll see that it's actually disappears behind my desk, and it's actually plugged into the sound card of my PC, because that's what I use as a tape recorder as such to load in programs. Here's a quick look at the circuit board. You can see there's not very much to it, quite a simple design. Time now to look at the machine in action. So this is what we see when we turn the machine on, a screen telling us to push return to start. So let's do that, and we get a copyright message. Now the way that you load tapes in is just to type cload. Now remember, this unit's only got 4K of memory, so the games that I found actually work with the 4K Aquarius have to be loaded in two parts. And you can see there that I'm using Audacity as a virtual cassette, if you like. So we'll load in the first part of this game, which is called Bomber. And essentially this this first program is really just a loader, which you then need to run to load the second part of the program in. Not sure actually where it's going in memory, but maybe it's using the whole 4K, so squeezes a bit more in there by using some of the video RAM, although the screen doesn't change. So we'll just wait for our game to load in, and here it is. Very simple game, as you would expect with something with such limited memory. All you do here is fly across horizontally, gradually getting lower, and of course the idea is to bomb the buildings as you go. You've got to try really get the tall ones first, because they're the ones that are going to impede you as your craft slowly gets lower. So you've got to get rid of those tall ones. Quite a simple game, but the colours are fairly vivid, quite bright. Sound effects, nothing to write home about. But as I said, if you've only got 4K, you can't really expect much else. So I won't take you through to the end of the game. I'm sure you get the idea as to how it works. We'll have a look at another one then. So we'll boot up and load in as we did before. This is another basic game, again, that needs a two-step process in loading. So we'll start the loader. This game's called Macho, and I just listed the loader there for you, so you can see that it's some pokes and a machine language subroutine call. So now we've loaded into the second half, and I've shortened it a bit for the sake of brevity. And here we have a game where we've got a man. We've got to try and get him up through these holes. It's a little bit like Frogger, I suppose, in a way, or you could say an electronic version of Snakes and Ladders. You've got to pop up through the hole. If you don't make it in time, you'll fall downwards through a hole that suddenly appears. So, right, I've got the hang of it now, so we're moving up quickly. Holes are of different sizes, so sometimes you have to squeeze through them, and eventually you make it up to the top. And the idea is to go to the left top there. You can, and that's it. So here's another game. This one is a straight basic game, so there's no preloader needed for this one. It's called Gunfighter, and it's actually quite an impressive game considering it's only 1.7K in size. And the idea is that you're in a shootout with some, it's an old-fashioned Western shootout. It's a first-person view, and at the end of the street you've got 5 gunslingers. You've got to draw your gun against them, and you're only given a split second to do it. You can see them crouch down as they draw their gun, and you've got to push the number of the people. There are 5 of them, so you've got to push the number that corresponds to the person that's drawn on you in order to shoot them. It can be amazingly tricky, actually. You've only got a very, very short time to do it, and it's quite easy to get the number wrong. So here we are, lined up with our gunslingers. So yeah, you saw one crouch down there. I drew. It's number 2, and that's the button I pushed, so he's dead. Next one's going to draw in a minute. It's number 3, so I push 3. Yes, he's dead. So going well so far. And oops, there's number 4, but whoops, I pushed the wrong button, so I've shot the wrong man, and there goes my short career as a gunslinger. Okay, time for another game, and this is Stalactites. Very simple game. It's almost like an upside down, well, no, not an upside down. It's almost a variation of Space Invaders, except rather than aliens gradually descending on you, you tend to get these stalactites that slowly grow. Your job is to try to cut them down in size. They're growing. All of them are growing at various rates, so it's quite difficult to keep up with them, of course. And as you can see, it's really a hopeless prospect because they just gradually get longer and longer until, of course, you're crushed. But the idea is to try and delay that inevitability for as long as you can. Okay, one more game to show you, and I couldn't resist loading in a version of Space Invaders. So I try and have a version of Space Invaders for all of my early 80s and late 70s micros. So here we go. It's in 4K, so it's fairly primitive, but there you can see our characters roaming across the screen, looking very Asian, actually, in some respects, like Asian characters. So your typical Space Invaders. You've got to clear the aliens away before they get to the bottom, and of course they come in waves. So it's eventually you do get you do lose all of your ships, but as they get destroyed, the movement speeds up and it gets a little harder to hit them. This is the best Space Invaders around for the Aquarius. There is a better version, but it needs the expanded memory. And in fact, most of the good games need the expanded memory. There's only a few of these games that really fit into the unexpanded Aquarius, the 4K version, which of course is the one that I've got. So they're the only games I can play. So those are some game versions. Not very impressive maybe, but just think they are 4K or less, so not bad considering that size. So let's have a look at the manual. This is the the manual that came with the Aquarius. And actually, as far as manual goes, it's not too bad. The idea of this machine was a machine that would help people learn about computing and learn about BASIC. And as I said at the beginning, by the time 1983-84 came around, it was, people really wanted a bit more than just that. But if the aim is to teach people a little bit of computing, a little bit of BASIC, the manual actually does it quite well. It's well set out, goes through the commands that are available in the subset of BASIC that the Aquarius has, quite well put together. So the manual is not too bad. So people might sneer at the Aquarius's specifications, but as far as the manual's concerned, not a bad job was done. This just shows you the table of contents, so you can see there the various chapters. And like a lot of home computing, they deal with various themes. So, they go through the various bits of BASIC that will produce graphics or give you a bit of sound or deal with loops, etc. Now, as well as that particular manual, this also came with the machine. It's really a series of summary cards, how to connect the machine up, how you plug it into a TV, that's all dealt with. Some other bits and pieces, how to create a graphic figure, a small bit of programming there. Really, the idea, I guess, of this small booklet is to get people up and running very, very quickly. It's one of those things that are supplied with machines for people that don't really want to read the manual. They just want to start to get things going pretty quickly. What else have we got? I've got this FinForm cartridge and the manual for it. Unfortunately, I can't use it because it does need the expander. You need at least 16K of RAM in order to use this package. Perhaps not 16K, but you need at least more RAM than I've got. And so I'll just have to wait for the day when something appears on TradeMe or eBay, an expander, and then I can use this. Actually, an expander appeared on our TradeMe a few years ago, soon after I got the Aquarius, but I lost the bidding for it. I didn't realize just how rare those expanders were and lost out to a higher bid. I've also got the box for it, as you can see here. So those are my thoughts about the Aquarius. Despite the fact that it's lacking in capacity and it failed in the marketplace, it's actually quite an attractive unit. Certainly the chiclet keyboard is difficult to use. The fact the spacebar is so small, the return key's in an odd place. But from sheer aesthetic appearance is concerned, it's an attractive enough unit. The manuals are good, and I must say I'm impressed with the programming prowess of some of these software writers to cram those games into such a tiny amount of memory in the unexpanded Aquarius. I'll continue to look at the sites, auction sites, to see if I could see an expander for sale one day, and that's certainly something I want to add to my model, just so I can see what it looks like with those 16K games.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that look at the Mattel Aquarius. It's a real reflection of the very hot home computer wars that occurred between 1982 and 83. Lots of people, companies tried to jump on the bandwagon, and some of them, it was just a matter of too little and too late. And certainly the Mattel Aquarius falls into that category. So until next time, keep well, and we'll see you in the next video.